Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to CX TV. Today we have Musa SAWANEH with us. Musa SAWANEH is our guest today, and he is a holder, a master's degree holder in economics, and we are going to discuss about unleashing the potential of the youth of the Gambia. Mr. SAWANEH, welcome to CX TV.
Thank you, Mr. Darame.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Same here, same here.
So can you please tell us who Musa SAWANEH is?
Thank you so much, Mr. Darame, and thank you, beautiful viewers.
Right.
My name is, as you rightly said, my name is Musa SAWANEH. I am a Tambasansanka, a bona fide Tambasansanka.
Right.
I was bred in Tambasansa, and I did my childhood in Tambasansa.
Okay.
I did my primary school in Tambasansa.
Okay.
And I proceeded to Banjul. I came back to Tambasansa,
okay.
And I moved to Latakunda Sabiji.
Right.
From there, I later went to Nusrat Senior Secondary School.
Okay.
I did my senior secondary school at Nusrat.
Right.
And after that, I proceeded to the University of The Gambia.
Okay.
I did a degree in economics and mathematics.
Okay.
Then later, I proceeded to Turkey, where I did my master's in economic development and international economics.
Okay.
So I'm Musa SAWANEH, as you rightly said. Thank you for that. And I'm currently working as a senior economist at the Ministry of Trade,
Right.
Regional Integration and Employment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. SAWANEH.
You're welcome.
Okay, today, as I rightly mentioned in the beginning, our topic is going to be unleashing the potential of the youth of the Gambia. So, Mr. SAWANEH, can you tell us who are the youths? Who the youths are?
Yeah, Mr. Darame, thank you.
Okay.
The Gambia is a country that is dominated by the youth. So the National Youth Policy defines youth as people or age between 15 to 30. That's the Gambian National Youth Policy.
Okay.
But the African Charter will tell you that a youth is a person between 15 and 35,
okay.
Right? And the United Nations will define youth as someone from 15 to 24.
Okay.
So the age of a youth varies depending on where you are and depending on the policy of a particular country,
right.
Or Africa, as I said, the African Charter, or the United Nations defines youth in a different way. So every country defines its youth in a different way. But in the Gambia, a youth, according to our National Youth Policy, is from 15 to 30. Yes.
Okay, then so that means youths comprises of a greater percentage of our population in the Gambia.
Oh yes. In fact, according to my Gambian age structure, 3% of the Gambian population is from 0 to 14, and we have 37%. 3% is above 65. Okay, 3% is above 65. 37% is from 0 to 14, and from 15 to 64 is where we have 59% of the population. So you see that from 15 to 64, having a whole sum of 59 is huge for the Gambia. And that is why the activities of Gambians should be channeled or should be spearheaded by the youth. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So, okay, can you tell us what are the roles of the youth in our society?
Yeah, you see, Mr. Darame, the youth are the cream of every society. They are the anchor of our society, if you like. Because a youth is determined, a youth is courageous, a youth is emphatic, a youth is responsible. Our Gambian youth are energetic, they are passionate, they are competitive, and most importantly, they are innovative. Now, but there's a problem within the Gambian youth, and the main problem that the Gambian youth are facing is the blockage by the senior citizens, if you like, or the environment that is not conducive for a Gambian youth. But aside it, a Gambian youth is always ready to lead in the affairs of our country. You see, there is no national development. A national development comprises of different sectors. It talks about the economy, the social, technology, and the environment. And each of these sectors, you have the youth actively engage in it, right? For example, let's talk about youth in social development. You see, if you remember, in 2016, we went into there was a crisis in the Gambia, right? The 2016 impasse that happened in the Gambia, the political impasse. So after this impasse, there's a need for integration, national integration. The people that led that integration are the youth. When you talk about, fastening social fabric, the youth are involved. Remember, I'm just talking about social development. When you talk about the stability of a nation, the youth are spearheading it. Now we realize that there was an ethnic issue that happened in the Gambia. It is the youth that has to come, whether it's in entertainment or in any way, shape or form. The youth came together and enlightened people, telling people that we are one nation, one Gambia and one people. And the issue of ethno-linguistic is not important, right? Now let's talk about youth in environmental development. I don't know if you know her. There's a lady, a young girl called Fatou Jeng. All right, Fatou Jeng is a climate activist. We have the Omar Malmo Sambu. These are all environmentalists. When it comes to environmental development, they are key. They are leading the way for the Gambia. And we have many social advocate, environmental advocate that are advocating for the welfare of the environment. They are advocating for the issue of climate change. And you see that climate change is a problem. There's a climate crisis happening, in the global climate crisis, and I'm so happy to say that the Gambia has been shown to be one of the best countries that are leading way in terms of climate justice, right? So you would see that, but there are people that are leading the way. Yes, we have the Ministry of Environment, but we need activists on the ground to ensure, to keep reminding the ministries that we need to be conscious of our climate, and the only people that can remind the government are the youth of our country. So the youth are leading the way. For example, also, if you look at the coastal areas, you see now we have beautiful coconut. It is the youth that are planting trees, right? You look at even in our beautiful village. Last time I was speaking to a forestry guy, and he was telling me that they were recently in Tambasansa to sensitize the people about planting trees. So it's all spearheaded by the youth. Now, let's talk about also youth in technological development. Whether in the Gambia, like my brother here, Mohammed is also trying to involve. So there are many youth like Mohammed, like you guys yourself, the Sheikhs TV. You're trying to enlighten the people at a volunteer stake. So there is no development, whether it's social, whether it's environmental or technological, without the involvement of the youth. Especially where 59% of a country, or if you like 60% of that country, the Gambia, are youth. So you will realize that no development can come without youth. Even in using technology in agriculture. I remember when I was in Tambasansa, we used to go to the farm from morning till evening. We go to they call it cantaros. We did all that when we were young. But now the advancement of technology, you don't need to spend the whole day in the bush, right? There are technologies that we can use now to go and farm, spend a few hours, come back, right? For example, the management information system, the agriculture management information system, the e-agriculture, the robots, right? The smart farming system, whereby you can easily water your garden using agriculture, right? So these are all things that are being spearheaded by the youth in the Gambia, and this technology is the future, right? Just Schumpeter will tell you that innovation, there's what we call creative destruction, right? Whereby you create to destroy the past, but the creation is what benefits or it what brings development. So Adam Smith will tell you that development cannot happen without technology. You need that technology to bring a sustainable development. Yes, you can develop through agriculture, you can develop through different means, but you need that innovation to bring that sustainability in development. So I think it is important, technology is important, and it is spearheaded by the Gambian youth. So these are all things that one can tell you. Let me give you an example of a youth developed in technology. There's a guy in Sierra Leone, a young boy called Kelvin. They call him DJ Kelvin, right? Kelvin was able to create a radio station using scraps from Sierra Leone. Yes, he used scraps and he was able to invent a radio station. It's an example of an African youth. So if Kelvin can do it in in Sierra Leone, I'm very sure that there are many potentials in the Gambia that have not been unleashed that can create similar activities. We have many youth in technology that need support. They are just finding it difficult. There are bottlenecks that they are facing. But if these bottlenecks can be quenched, you realize that the potential of our youth will be unleashed. Now, youth in economic development. Economic development talks about productivity, it talks about infrastructure, and it talks about trade, right? If you talk about productivity, you were talking about agriculture. Yeah. I just saw recently a young Gambian within the gap of national youth policy age is now investing hugely in agriculture. He's selling bananas, he's selling papayas, he's selling orange and other likes, and he's making a living for himself. Now we have people, Mr. Darami, that are living the business, they are living education, or if you like, they are living the office job and venturing into agriculture. That are people in the Gambia. What about the industry? When you talk about industrial development too, the Gambians are involved. Trade particular, the MSMEs, that's the medium, small, micro enterprises, it's been dominated by the youth, right? When you talk about job creation, and you see the reason why the MSMEs are important is that they are job creators, right? In the Gambia, we have over 39% of Gambians that are within the framework, within the frame of unemployability. They are not employed, and I'm very sure in economics, for you to be called unemployed, you must be searching for a job, right? So within the frame of not being employed, that is people that are looking for job, actively looking for job and can't find job, is of like 39% if my statistics are right. So, but we need more SMSEs to ensure that they create more job for our people, and that can only be unleashed by the government. Why we emphasize in the government, you see, the African leadership structure is designed in a way that senior, like the executives, right? The executive, the government, they control too much so that they determine what happens in our African society. So that is why you see most of the reasons the government. But in other developed world, where the institutions are key, where what we call inclusive institution. If you look at the book of Why Nation Fails, it tells you nation fails because we have extractive institutions that are not relevant to the development of a society. And why we need inclusive institution is because it helps in the structure, the framework of our governance system. And that is why we keep blaming the government. We keep saying the government needs to unleash or unlock the potential of the youth. Let's talk about infrastructure, or soft infrastructure. Let's start with the healthcare system, the financial system, the education system of our country. Gambia today, our education system is in shambles. Shambles, and just recently there's a protest of the teachers are protesting, right? Sure. They are protesting because they said they don't have the COVID allowances, right? And which they are entitled to because it's a pledge that has been made. But you realize that even that sector of teaching is dominated by the youth. The sector of our doctors, nurses, the healthcare staffs, they are all youth. Graduate from the University of The Gambia, Gambia College, and other private institutions. When you talk about the financial system, look at our banks today. The banks of the Gambia, the banking system of the Gambia is totally dominated by foreign banks, right? But even in those foreign banks, you realize that the people working there are Gambians, positive, yeah, and they are youth, right? Gambian youth. So Gambian youth, they are found in every sphere of our society. And that is why unleashing their potential is very paramount to the development of our nation. And we must ensure, and we must keep advocating, continue advocating to ensure that the constraints that we find, the bottlenecks must be faded away to see that the government finally unlock our potential and see that we thrive as a nation. So, Mr. Drame, I can't keep emphasizing that yes, the Gambian youth is in social development. Yes, the Gambian youth is in environmental development. The Gambian youth is in technological development. But what is now visible for everybody to see is the involvement of Gambian youth in our political system, right? Now, recently you've seen that we are going to have a parliamentary election, right? And I'm very happy to see Thomas Sanka, Mr. Drame, Mr. Kora, Fali Kora, vying to be a parliamentarian, right? For Tumana. That is a plus for everybody. We want more youth to come into this arena, the political arena, because you see, for every development you see of every nation, it is true political transformation that determines the level of that nation. When you don't have a very good political transformation, then the economic development becomes a dream. We need a very good, vibrant political system, a very good, vibrant political environment to have economic development. But once the political environment is in shambles, then there's a problem with our economic development here, because there is no economic development without politics, right? It is our political leaders that set the policies. They lead the way that brings economic development. But if the political arena or environment is so poor or is in destitute condition, then we have a problem with economic development. And that is why more Gambians must endeavor to engage more, or to put themselves more, or discuss more about politics, right? You cannot say, oh no, I don't talk about politics. We must talk about it. We must talk about the issues of our country. We must ensure that we advocate with alacrity to ensure that we put our leaders to account. And that cannot be done without the youth, because the youth, they have time, we have talent, we have energy. That is why we must engage our leaders, right? We must engage our leaders in this thing, in development. And you see, this 21st century development, Mr. Darame, is youth driven. There is no development that can be done without youth, right? As I earlier mentioned, the environment, the technological arena, the social development, everything has to do with the youth. Let's talk about the protests that happened. If you are aware of the Arab Spring, you heard of the Arab Spring that happened in 2010. You see that it was spearheaded by the youth. The one in Egypt by the youth. Recently in Mali, Burkina Faso, it's owned by youth. So any government that don't take the youth seriously is joking with a government, with a section of a society that can take over, right? So we must ensure that we put our leaders to account, and we must ensure that the government or the governance structure is saturated by the youth. Because yes, we need experience, but we need the youth to take part in our development process. So I would like to tell you that youths are trying their best. Gambian youths are found everywhere in our society, but we are with enormous challenge. And these challenges are leading to the derailing of our economic development agenda. You see that most Gambians now, when you go for studies, right, there is a problem of what we call brain drain, right? Or we call knowledge flight, right? Intellectual flight, whereby Gambians go outside to study, and after studies, they stay there. They don't come back because they believe that our environment is not conducive. Yeah, that argument can be seen in two ways. Yes, they are right, but no, they are wrong. You see, when you go outside for studies, right, you left your country, you went for studies outside, you get the knowledge, you get the experience outside, you learn the development of other countries. It is duty bound of every citizen, most citizen if you like, without job in the diaspora, to come back home, or without job that they deserve, to come back home and find it possible way to contribute immensely to the development of our nation. And no development, no contribution towards development is small. Sure. No contribution towards development is subtle. Every contribution of every youth towards our development agenda is important, it is significant, and it must be appreciated by every citizen, right? So brain drain is a challenge. If you like, intellectual flight is a challenge of our country. But also, there's what you call the intergenerational gap, right? Intergenerational gap is talking about a gap between the senior citizens and the youth. You see, this gap is whereby we have leaders that have been talking about this politics of our country since 1965, 1980s. these same leaders are here, and they are not allowing the youth to be subsumed in the system, to be involved in the development agenda of our country. So there's a gap, and the earlier we try to close that gap, the better for our development. But also, the most tragic, if you like, the most difficult challenge, or the most difficult things the Gambian youth are facing is that we are entrapped into what we call a treacherous triangle. The triangle of poverty, the triangle of illiteracy, and the triangle of unemployment. You see, these three triangles is what we call the treacherous triangle. It's so dangerous because we are entrapped in it. The Gambian youth are unemployed. The Gambian youth are illiterate, if you like, are non-literate, and the Gambian youth are fighting poverty. And in our quest to fight this poverty is what is making most Gambians to take the journey to the illegal migration, or not illegal, the irregular migration they call it now. Now there's choice of word. It's wrong to say illegal migration. It's irregular migration, right? But it's huge sacrifice. In fact, right, currently I have my cousin in Libya calling me every day. He's on his way to the journey, and you understand at some point that their journey, is two ways also. It is tragic, but there are a lot of prosperity that happen. Now, most houses, if you like, in the Gambia has someone outside, or have someone outside that is serving as the breadwinner of their family. Yeah? So the back way, or the illegal migration, always has two faces. The tragic side, whereby we lost many Gambians in the sea or in the desert, but we have many Gambians now that were unemployed in the Gambia, that were jobless in the Gambia, and now found job outside Gambia in the diaspora, and are remunerating or sending remittance back to their country. And you see recently the central bank said that almost 50% of the GDP is supported by remittances. So you can see how important the diaspora are in the Gambia. So nobody would say that staying outside the country is wrong, but we are encouraging more Gambians to come back home and invest. You see, we should not live in despair. Today's our independence, if you allow me to say that, and 57 years of nationhood, right? We are still unemployed. We are still not going to school. We are still fighting poverty. But these reasons, or this treacherous triangle, should not leave us in despair. You see, a Gambian never give up. We must endeavor to keep fighting. We must endeavor to keep fighting to ensure that we get that prosperity that we do deserve as a nation. The Gambia, we fought for independence in 1965, right? We fought Yahya tyranny in 2016, right? And we can fight any government that seems to arrest our liberty, that seems to arrest our individual freedoms. We will arrest, or we will challenge any government that want to take us back to the years that was a nightmare, right? So we are trying as a country, but we need to do more as a government to ensure that we keep the youth contribute effectively and efficiently to the national development. Now, how can the government ensure that the Gambian youth, or how can the government ensure that they unleash or they unlock the potential of the youth, right? One way to do that, Mr. Darame, is to create an environment for political participation. As I said, there is no meaningful development without a proper or a real political transformation. You need development, then the political system must be well transformed. They must involve an inclusive institution, because you must have an institution that is so vibrant, efficient, to have a development as a country. That is why today, presidency is one thing, but the American system, the American institutions is so vibrant. And, any leader that comes, whether it's Donald Trump, as crazy as Donald Trump, or any leader,
will not be able to shake that institution because they have a very strong and inclusive institution. So for Gambia, we need the youth to participate, to be in politics, but we want government to create that environment for us, right? And also the intergenerational co-leadership I talked about. The intergenerational co-leadership is in alignment or is aligned to the political participation, whereby the government ensure that the gap between the youth and the senior citizen is dwindled, is closed, and we have more youth involving in our political scene. But most importantly, Mr. Jame, and that this will be my final comment, is that any nation or any government or any leadership that does not make effort in building the youth is building a collapsed nation. When you build the youth, you are building the nation. And because I have always believed that the 21st century leadership or 21st century development is completely youth driven. We need that intergenerational co-leadership, right? To synergize the agility or the energy of the youth with the experience of the senior citizen for a collective glory. I don't know if you get that right. The agility and the energy, the talent of the youth, synergizing that with the experience of the senior citizen to have a collective glory. If we don't do that, we'll keep dreaming. If we don't do that, we'll keep aspiring for greatness, but unable to achieve that greatness. And if I to be chosen to be a leader in this country, my first thing, or the first thing I will do, is to plant patriotism in the minds and hearts of all Gambians. You see, we can talk about any forms of development, any theory of development, but when we don't put patriotism in front of it, our nation will be crowded or will be engulfed by corrupt people and corrupt society. We will be a corrupt society that only see itself. And that is why, you see, our ambition to personal glory has to go hand in hand with patriotism, right? Because whoever we are, whatever we become, wherever we find ourselves, home is home. Gambia is our Gambia, and we cannot erase our identity. That is why we should proudly embrace it and work tirelessly to see that we not only improve the status quo, but we also create a foundation for future generations to come, so that they can meet a foundation that is bound to thrive. They can meet a foundation that is on the way to the promised land, so that in next 20 years, we'll have a Gambia where our children, where my son, will be able to live in dignity, will be able to live in peace and in total joy. So, Mr. Dame, I just hope that the government of the Gambia will put the youth in the front of our agenda, of any development agenda, and ensure that they unlock the unhidden potential of our youth.
Thank you very much for that wonderful statement.
Thank you.
You mentioned that the youth of the Gambia are active, they are energetic, they are passionate, and you mentioned how crucial they are to our country, to the development of our country. So I think that it is really important that the people up there hear this and they put it into, they implement this.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So another thing is, other than the government, as a society, the way our society is structured, what is the role of the society in unleashing the potentials of the youth?
Thank you, Mr. Drame.
Yeah.
You see, every society it's a subset of different age group, right?
Yeah.
It is the conglomerate of these age groups that forms a society. Yeah. So now, a sector of the society are the youth.
Yeah.
That means now we have the senior ones and we have the younger ones, right? So it is a collective or a concerted effort that we can only bring the development of or unleashing the potential of the youth. So there's a problem also we face as a society. And in as much I'm a proud Mandinka, in as much I believe and I love my ethnicity, I feel and I believe that family that there is a myopic mindset that has to do with our culture and tradition. You see, we must. I mean, today's Friday. That's why I dress like this, right? It's a cultural thing, and I believe in our culture. But there are some mindset that we're facing that is very bad towards our society. We have the issue of tribal clash. We have the issue of caste system, where this is a this and this are this, and this caste system is been there for a long time, and it's still happening. So these are all ways that are failing to unleash the potential of the youth. For example, let me give a true story here, where a person, with a particular linguistic and is naturally endowed with resources, happens to have a sharp training, but because he has a particular surname, the family of his, he want to recruit
people or apprentice to come and join him, but this particular family attach business with pleasure, or business with cultural identity, which was so terrible to hear at first, but it just shows the mindset of our society.
Exactly.
It shows the state of mindset we still face as a nation. So I believe that it's high time that we look at culture holistically and we see the pros of the culture and the cons of a culture. While we take and embrace the pros, we should derail from the cons and move together as human beings, and move together as Muslims, if you like, or as Christians, and have a nation where we are moving towards a goal of one Gambia, one nation, and one people. So our society are so key, and it's high time our senior citizens, our fathers and grandfathers and this thing, understand that there's a generation of youth. There's a generation that realizes that is going in a line with, if you like, the Quranic injunctions, which is very clear about cultural identities, right? So I think we need to our society need to evolve with time and embrace our system and ensure that we have a collective glory.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Like you shared, as a society, our own mindset is very, very detrimental to our development.
Yeah.
We really need to work on that. Like you said, the caste system. That caste system is very, very detrimental to the development, because someone will not be want to be led by another person.
Oh yeah.
Even if the person is able, even if the person has potential, he will not want to be lead that person if he is believed to be from a higher social class than that person. So that is very, very bad to our development. I think as a society we need to work on that. Thank you very much for that. So as youth too, what do we need to work on, even though we have all these potentials and we are very, very crucial to the development of our nations? As youths of the Gambia, what do we need to do? I mean, what do we need to increase so that we can get because it is the fact that we are the cream or like the anchor of our society. Doesn't mean you put your head down and sleep and this. No, we still need to believe. The first thing we need to do as young Gambians is to believe that no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult it becomes, we are in the forefront of the development of this country. We are very key. I want every Gambian youth to see themselves as very, very paramount to the development of the Gambia. I want every Gambian to believe in whatever he or she is embarking on, whether it's education, whether it's agriculture, whether it's business or entrepreneurship, which is very, very key now in development. Whatever you find yourself, just work hard as a Gambian youth.
it's you see, before we have a system in the Gambia where you know, you go to school. After school, we finish grade 12. After grade 12, we sit down and say we have my brother in Europe to send me money, or my brother in Europe to take me to Europe. That is a thing of the past, Mr. Drame. Now you got to man up. Now you got to stand on your feet. If you're in school, take your studies seriously. You know, don't fumble around. It's your life. It's your education. I will not understand how you will go up to grade 12 and you stop there. No, you need to move on. You need to either go to college, go for classes, just do something. You cannot go up to grade 12 and stop there. As a Gambian, you do not allow that. There are things you can do. Go and see whether you can engage in entrepreneurship. Go and see whether you can go and learn computer classes. Just do something. Whether you find yourself in agriculture, just believe. But do not, and I repeat, do not sit down and say, okay, my brother or my auntie is in Europe, my brother will take me to Europe, or my auntie will feed me. No, no. You got to stand up and do something. You just need few support and do something. So this is the mindset I want every Gambian youth to have. You know, what can you do to develop your country? Not always the other way around, right? Not the country can do for you, but what you can do to the collective development of our country. Because you see, no man can develop a country itself. You need a concerted effort. You need people to come together with one goal and one aim and one mindset and move our nation to greatness. So I would challenge a Gambian youth to never sit down, okay? Never sit down and say, I have nothing to do. Never sit down, I have no support. Never sit down to say, I finished school and that's it. Try to do something. Think around the clock. What can you do? And you have support, right? You'll have support any way, shape or form. You'll have support, but you need to stand up. You need to stand up and move.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. SAWANEH.
Yeah.
Actually, today I learned a lot and I'm inspired by your statements and your challenge to me as a Gambian youth. I accept it, to not to sit down and fold my hands, but to work hard and focus so that we can develop myself and my family and the country at large. So thank you very much for that. So do you have any other thing you would like to talk about?
Yeah, just to say thank you for inviting me, and I think this is a Tamasansa thing. It's spearheaded by Tamasansan Youth, which is a reason that I must squeeze time. I told Seni, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I will commend you for that, and I will tell you it's not going to be easy, right? It will take your time, it will take your resources, but you must be focused. You must know what you're doing, why you're doing this program, why are you investing in yourself. And I will think you must have a reason for this. But most importantly, I can see that you guys are at the University of The Gambia, and as one of the first person or second, I don't know, or third, I don't know, some of the earlier people at the University of The Gambia, my advice to every Tamasansanka is to take the education seriously. You know, we want to transform Tambasansa collectively. We want Tambasansa transform Tambasansa, then we move transforming the Gambia, right? So we must ensure that Tambasansa becomes a village that is full of educated youth, so that the mindset, everything here depends on the mindset. The more you talk to people, the way you find their mindset is important, yeah? Because sometimes you talk to people, the message you send, some people don't listen to the message. They just judge the messenger. So I think we need to endeavor as Tamasansan youth to ensure that we educate ourselves, and as much as we educate ourselves, we repatriate that, or we reciprocate that in our homes and our villages. Yeah. And to the Gambian youth, my last word, or my final word, would be that you see, Gambia is a country that is so small. It's 11,300 kilometers square. Yes, we don't have resources. The only resources we have, or the only resource we have, is the River Gambia, if you like. That's where we get our fish from, our agriculture, irrigation system. But the most important capital we have is the human capital. You see, currently as I'm speaking, now economists are saying Development is through the human capital. And I would believe that the human capital of the Gambia, the large chunk of the human capital, are the youth. So you can see still how the youth are so important, because if economists are telling you that development of a country is the human capital development, right? That's where you have the health system, you have the education system, you have the skills, the talent, everything is engulfed, is subsumed in the human capital development. So that is why I want every Gambian to just sit down and ask yourself, what can I do for my Gambia? What can we do for the Gambia? What can we do? You see, I express my political view anytime and yes, anywhere except for government institution, because I'm a government civil servant, so I don't have the right to express my view in the government settings. But apart from that, I express my view as a Gambian. I castigate the government, or no, not castigate. I blame or I criticize the government if they do wrong, and I appreciate the government if they do right. So I want every Gambian to see it this way, irrespective of our ethno-linguistic, irrespective of our tribe or creed. We are one Gambia, and we are one people moving towards one destiny in one path. So I want every Gambian to see this as the ultimate glory.
Not a temporal glory, and not something that you can just serve your ego at the expense of married Gambia, right? So I want every Gambian to see the Gambia as Gambia, to see the Gambia as first, and to see the Gambia as last. So thank you so much, Mr. Drame, for inviting me, and I would encourage you to keep it up. I would ask that we all sit together, how you can keep improving, and keep advising the Tambasasankas, our Tambasasankas, to go to schools, right? To proceed to the university, not stopping at grade 12, proceed to the university, get more educated, get more determined to know more, right? Try to know more, try to be inquisitive, try to be there upstairs. Don't set low standards, right? Don't be proud, don't be be egoistic, but be humble, but also set standard and go for that. You achieve that, okay? So I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sane. It was a pleasure having you here and an honor. The session was very, very educative. It was very inspiring too. So thank you very much for your
You're welcome.
first day. Okay, that brings us to the end of the program. Thank you very much, viewers, for your kind attention. You can follow us on Facebook at CXTV and YouTube. You can like and share our videos. Thank you very much.